This came out this week too. A rocket's launched from Earth, but captured from the ISS. And what's the yellow line? Does anyone know what this yellow line is? Now it seems like they watched my older episodes and added some stars in at last. Words fail me. It's complete garbage. Now let's get on to the Mars landing. Now get this, Lockheed Martin, a total elite company that makes weapons and transhuman military technology, say they built this paper mache tinfoil debacle. And they did a glossy advert for it too. This is so glossy you may need some sunglasses. Get the emotional music going to pull you in. Joining the others. Thrusters in a vacuum. What? Raise the emotion on the music, Barry. Heat-proof cloth parachute. Nice. Bit wobbly. It doesn't sound right, you need some oil in there. Mars.
I am here. I am the only one designed to take the vitals of Mars.
So a lump of fake metal is now a sexy girl.
Truly groundbreaking. I will be the first to look beneath the surface, peering back in time to the origins of Mars and all terrestrial planets, providing insight.
Planet's
formation, evolution, and movements.
Insight and movement.
Continuing our journey of exploration and discovery.
I'm getting aroused. Someone throw some cold water this way. This is the official promotional PR footage. It took 6 months to get there. It enters the atmosphere at 12,000 miles an hour, but it gets up to 2,700 degrees. That a cloth parachute then slows it down to 300 miles an hour. And then rockets slow it down. Get the camping kit out. This one they say will measure earthquakes. And this drill that goes down just 16 feet will tell all about the core and tell us also about how Earth was formed. Funny that, because I stuck a pole in the ground the other day here and I knew what was happening 1,000 miles down and how the luminary Jupiter was created. Jesus Christ. An $830 million drill. Really, they are using that cash for the chemtrails projects, other lands exploration, free flu jabs to drone you out, and the rest probably on sex parties. Now they said 2 mini satellites flew there as well, each the size of a suitcase, and will stay in space to beam back all the information. The BBC got in on the act too. Get some of this.
If you actually, put up a picture on the wall of the inside of Mars, you would have all these fuzzy boundaries. And when you tried to, write what it was made out of, you'd say, some of this and some of that and some of the other thing.
Check this out.
To get from the top of the atmosphere of Mars to the surface, we call entry, descent, and landing, or EDL. It takes thousands of steps to go from the top of the atmosphere to the surface, and each one of them has to work perfectly to be a successful mission. The process starts well above the top of the atmosphere of Mars. The cruise stage faces the sun. It also has its radio antenna, which faces Earth. But now we don't need the cruise stage. Its job is done. The next step, just 7 minutes before arriving to the top of the Mars atmosphere, is to separate the cruise stage. Before you hit the top of the atmosphere, though, the space capsule has to orient itself so that the heat shield is precisely facing the atmosphere. Now the fun begins. The vehicle is moving at nearly 13,000 miles an hour, but it's hitting the top of the atmosphere at a very shallow angle, 12 degrees. Any steeper, the vehicle will hit the thicker part of the atmosphere and it will melt and burn up. Any shallower, the vehicle will bounce off the atmosphere of Mars. At the very top of the atmosphere, it's about 70 miles above the surface of Mars, and the air is starting to get thicker and thicker and thicker. As it does that, the temperature on the heat shield gets well over 1,000 degrees centigrade, enough to melt steel. Over the next 2 minutes, the vehicle decelerates at a backbreaking 12 Earth Gs.
I gotta stop it. I gotta stop it. This dude reminds me of someone.
So I'm not asking for 14 quid, I'm not going to ask for 10 quid. Who'll give me 6 quid for this little yap? 6 quid, come on, anybody, 6 quid. Let me tell you something.
From 13,000 miles an hour to about 1,000 miles an hour. At about 10 miles above the surface of Mars, a supersonic parachute is launched out of the back of the vehicle.
What is a supersonic parachute?
The parachute inflates. It's time to get rid of the heat shield.
How?
6 pyrotechnic devices fire simultaneously, allowing the heat shield to fall and tumble away from the vehicle,
How?
exposing the lander to the surface of Mars. 10 seconds after the heat shield is dropped, 3 pyrotechnically deployed legs are released and locked for landing. About a minute later, the landing radar is turned on, sending pulses toward the surface of Mars as the vehicle starts to try to measure how high it is above the surface and how fast it's going. At about a mile above the surface of Mars, the lander falls away from the back shell and lights its engines. And very quickly, the vehicle must rotate out of the way so that the parachute and the back shell doesn't come down to hit it. The last thing that has to happen is that on the moment of contact, the engines have to shut down immediately. If they don't, the vehicle will tip over. So if all the steps of entry, descent, and landing happen perfectly and we are safely on the surface of Mars, we'll be ready to do some exciting new science.
Do some science. I had an ex-girlfriend once that lied as much as he did. Okay, if this was real, and I know it's not, and you all know it's not, but let's pretend. If it was real, after listening to that, what are the odds of this landing occurring successfully? I think I know the answer.
reported there in Bent Pipe.
So to the live landing.
Still waiting on a...
Same old,
Copy
same
that,
old.
thank you.
Rubbish CGI,
Review science report.
nonsense chat,
UHF carrier detected.
crisis actors.
EDLCom, Marco Alpha is in bent pipe mode. Marco Bravo has locked on the carrier. Marco